In 2018, Michigan voters elected a new governor, Gretchen Whitmer. In its new series, Inside Michigan Government, the Michigan Advance will be sitting down and talking to leaders of key state departments about what they do, as well as problems and solutions for Michigan.
Joe Gasper, the 19th Director of the Michigan State Police. I think that probably the biggest reason that I went into criminal justice was just the idea of not only being able to give back to the community, but also be able to participate in some criminal investigation. I had an interest in kind of the detective work, and that's obviously something that as a full police agency, we provide. So obviously as director, what I like to do is I like to say that the agency runs itself, and then we have various people that are associated with the different parts of the agency that are very close to all of the issues, and they pass information to me, whether it be for situational awareness or whether it be to ask guidance on a particular issue or an idea that they would like to engage in. My leadership philosophy is a decentralized decision-making type of philosophy, where I really want everybody in the agency to feel empowered to make decisions. And the role of the state police, so we're a full-service police agency. So we're responsible for preventing crime, for investigating crime, and for traffic safety. Well, I think that we have a number of retirements that are coming up over the course of the next 4 years, so that's a priority. We have a minimum of 325 people that are probably going to walk out the door for retirement, and so we need to make sure that we're consistently running recruit schools, not only to make sure that our numbers don't slip, but even more importantly, to make sure that we have the opportunity to diversify our ranks. So that's something that hopefully in 3 years from now or 4 years from now, that we'll see a more diverse department. Another thing is that I would hope that in that same time frame that measures that we've taken to ensure that the backlog and the turnaround time in the lab has been reduced from what it is today. And then I would just say that from a standpoint of technology in general, that we're concentrating on making sure that the technology is as modern and up to date as possible, and that it works, so that we can reduce the amount of time that troopers are spending doing activities or having those responsibilities that otherwise could have been eliminated or at least reduced by having good technology in place, so that they can spend their time working in the communities and making sure that we're as safe as possible within the state. I think it's very important, probably first and foremost, is that we need to be a representative of the communities that we're working in. And so we have exceptional people within our agency, and we have a wide variety of experiences. We have diversity in ethnicity and religious, from a religious standpoint, but our diversification in race is something that definitely needs to, we need to work on that. It's not just a state police issue, it's statewide, it's nationwide. Yeah, I think, as we travel around the state and then obviously around the nation to different seminars and conferences, I think that there's a litany of different opinions on why recruiting to law enforcement is a little bit difficult right now. I think when you turn on the news or you read the reports, that there is a kind of that proverbial cloud that's hanging over law enforcement right now, and I think that helps to maybe deter some of the recent generations from going into law enforcement. I think that we have a pretty good economy right now, and so then that tends to I think, not push people towards public service, but maybe a little bit more towards the private side of industry, because maybe they can make a little bit more money. And I think too that in the current environment of the United States and some of the other issues that that law enforcement has to deal with, has probably just simply deterred interest from certain generations from wanting to be involved. Yeah, I think when you look at media reports where there's police shootings or there is civil unrest, just where different areas of the country may have different challenges. I think that because the world's not so small anymore, we get everything kind of real time on social media and different notifications pushed on our phone. That something that happens in other parts of the country tend to be relayed to the entire country rather quickly. Well, I think that from a standpoint of me personally, it is bothersome, and it does sadden me that people have issues that require some type of engagement in civil unrest. That, I think, speaks to maybe a larger issue, that their voices aren't being heard, and that being able to concentrate maybe on the bigger issue is something that we need to be concerned with. I think that there's a certain amount of check and balance when it comes to social media, that there is obviously this element of hindsight that allows people to be able to review and dissect police officers' actions, and sometimes the actions are warranted, and sometimes, quite frankly, they're not. And I think that it's important that when the actions are not warranted, that justice is brought swiftly to those. But at the same time, for those actions that were warranted, I guess I would just ask for understanding by those who might be struggling with understanding some of that. I think I would not say that there is. I think that there is a much needed conversation that needs to be had around those issues. I think that the complexity of diversity, the complexity of concern within issues that revolve around race and gender, ethnicity. I think that all of those are definitely issues of 2019 that need to bring collective, calm people to a table, so that if they are issues specific to a community, that we can put some good conversation together and potentially some resolution to that. I think if they are issues that are on a larger scale, then I do think that we're all kind of, as citizens of the United States, as contributing members to society, I think it falls upon all of us to make sure that we're understanding all the sides to issues, so that we can best represent and offer solutions to the challenges, so that people are not feeling frustrated with whatever is going on. Well, we're constantly making sure that our enforcement action is appropriate, and that again, it's that we're not targeting individuals or races or gender or anything like that, but what we're doing is we're concentrating on violations of the law, and that's how we conduct our traffic safety to make sure that the roads are safe for not only citizens of Michigan but for the visitors. As it pertains to the ACLU, we have met with Mr. Fancher a few weeks ago. Had a very good conversation with him, and I think that moving forward again, we've addressed some of his concerns, and we're definitely interested, and I'm specifically interested in working with the ACLU to make sure that whatever their concerns are, that we're addressing those and having good conversation and discussion, so that we can make sure again that we bring resolution to concerns that the general public might have. Yeah, we're having quite regular conversations when it comes to all of these issues. We do have we're trying new things on a very regular basis, not only with current members but with recruits. We have a diversity and inclusion committee that we have established within the agency. We have fair and impartial police training that we've developed, that was given to not only all of our enlisted members, which are those of us that wear a uniform, but also we had it adapted so that we could give it to our civilian members too. And we're actually probably the first agency in the country to give it to civilian members too. And that all talks about the science of biases, so that we can understand even some of those thoughts or actions maybe that we didn't realize that we had, but we've got a lot of positive feedback from both of those trainings, and it does help us in communities where if you don't have exposure to different groups as maybe you're growing up, that now you have exposure to some of those groups because of where you're working, and I think it does help us not only on a daily basis but situational basis also. Yeah, so we try to engage in as much community policing or community engagement as possible. So we encourage the troopers to have positive interactions with the community, not just negative interactions where there's somebody getting a ticket or somebody getting arrested. And so that's where you'll see some of these pictures that will pop up where you've got a uniformed trooper maybe throwing a football with someone or playing basketball. And those are examples of really positive interactions with the police, where they show up, they have a conversation, they engage in activity, and then they leave, and there's not some negative enforcement action that's had to have been or had to be taken. So I think encouraging those types of engagements are very important. Getting engaged with groups where we can go to the groups from a recruiting standpoint, instead of maybe holding a recruiting seminar somewhere where we say, okay, come to us if you have an interest. We can go to groups where we have, obviously groups tend to be attending a particular event because they're interested in that, and so that's where, if we know that they have an interest in a particular area, then we can go, and maybe that's where we set up a recruiting booth, or just go have conversation and just see if people have an interaction or have an interest in law enforcement, and then what we can do is then help them through the process, so that and then again, that's another way for us to be able to diversify. Well, I don't like a particular event. We go to a lot of the universities where we could interact with those coming out of athletics. We've also recently engaged in an agreement with the U.S. Army with a kind of a youth It's promoting youth leadership and service, and what that allows them to do is, if soldiers want to sign up to this particular program as they're going through their military career, then we guarantee them an initial interview when they successfully come out of the Army. Another group that we're currently engaged in having discussions with is the Police Athletic League in Detroit, and again, having some of that positive engagement with some of the youth of Detroit to see, what kind of interest they might have in being part of law enforcement, or specifically the state police.